The moment the door closed behind them, the house went quiet. Too quiet. I stood in my sister's living room, still holding my purse, still hearing the taxi fade away outside. 5 days. That's how long they were supposed to be gone. 5 days of sun, drinks, and freedom, while I stayed behind to watch their daughter. I smiled and turned around. That's when my niece spoke. Auntie, don't drink the tea Mom made. I froze. Not because of what she said, but because she said it at all. She was 8 years old. She had never spoken a single word in her life. My brain refused to catch up. My body went cold. The thermos in my hand suddenly felt heavy, dangerous, like it didn't belong to me anymore. She planned something bad, my niece added quietly. Her voice was clear, calm, like she had been speaking her whole life. I didn't scream. I didn't move. I just stared at her. Then everything inside me collapsed at once. Let me rewind a few hours because none of this makes sense without the beginning. My name is Lisa. I'm 32. I live a boring life by choice. Numbers, spreadsheets, quiet mornings. I like control. I like things that add up. My sister, Brooke, is the opposite. She's charming, confident, always one step ahead of everyone else. That morning started normal. Coffee, silence, peace. Then my phone rang. Lisa, Brooke said in that sweet voice she only used when she wanted something. I need a huge favor. She and her husband had booked a last-minute anniversary cruise. Caribbean, 5 days, very romantic. They needed me to watch Nola. Of course I said yes. I always said yes to Brooke, and I meant it. I loved my niece. Even though she didn't talk, there was something about her. Her eyes followed everything. She listened in a way most adults never do. Brooke always said Nola was born with a neurological condition. Doctors, tests, nothing to be done. I never questioned it. Why would I? She was my sister. I moved back to town 2 years ago when our mom got sick. Cancer. Slow, ugly. After Dad passed, Mom was all we had. When Mom died, she left a trust. About $1 million. Everything split between Brooke and me. Big decisions needed both our signatures. At the time, I thought nothing of it. Now, I wonder if Mom knew more than she ever said. When I arrived at Brooke's house that afternoon, everything felt slightly off. Too perfect. She hugged me, twice. Brooke never hugged. She walked me through the house like I'd never been there before, pointing things out, repeating instructions, smiling too much. Then she opened the fridge. She said, I made this for you, handing me a large thermos with a yellow lid. Herbal tea, for stress. She pressed it into my hands. You look tired, Lisa. Something in her eyes didn't match her voice. But I smiled. I thanked her, like always. The taxi honked. Brooke kissed Nola's head, grabbed her bag, and rushed out. Her husband barely looked at me. The door shut. Silence. Then, my niece spoke. I set the thermos down like it might explode. My hands were shaking so hard I had to kneel in front of her to steady myself. Nola, I whispered, you can talk? She nodded. I always could, she said. Mommy made me stop. The room tilted. What do you mean, made you stop? Her eyes filled, but she didn't cry. She just told me everything. She was 3 years old when she heard something she wasn't supposed to hear. Her mom on the phone, talking about money, about me. Once Lisa is out of the picture, Everything is ours. The next day, Nola asked what out of the picture meant. That's when Brooke snapped. She grabbed her hard. She told her, "If you ever speak again, something bad will happen to Aunt Lisa. Your voice is dangerous." So Nola stopped speaking. Not because she couldn't, but because she loved me. For 5 years. 5 years of silence to protect me. That's when I understood something terrifying. My niece wasn't invisible. She was watching everything. And 2 nights ago, she heard something else. "The tea will make her sick," she said. "Not dead, just helpless." My stomach turned. That's when I knew Nola had to speak. That's when she saved my life. And that's when I realized my sister didn't go on a cruise. She went to steal everything I had.
For a few seconds after Nola finished talking, neither of us spoke. The house felt different now, like it was listening. I stared at the yellow-lid thermos on the kitchen counter, just sitting there, innocent, quiet, like nothing was wrong. That's the scariest kind of danger. I picked it up using a towel and moved it far away from us. "You did the right thing," I told Nola, forcing my voice to stay calm. "You were very brave." She nodded, but I could tell she was tired. 5 years of fear doesn't disappear just because the truth comes out. That's when something inside me clicked. Brooke thought she was smarter than me. She thought I was weak, predictable, easy. So I decided to let her keep thinking that. The first call I made wasn't to the police. It was to my best friend, Gwen. She's a nurse, sharp, no nonsense. When she arrived and heard everything, the tea, the plan, Nola's voice, she didn't panic. She got focused. "That tea needs to be tested," she said. "Tonight." She took samples like a professional, sealed them, and sent them to a lab she trusted. Then she looked at me and said, "Now, listen carefully. From this moment on, you are sick." "What?" "You act sick, weak, confused, just like she planned." That's when the plan formed. If Brooke thought I drank the tea, she'd move fast. Greedy people always do. Next step, evidence. Nola told us about a locked drawer in her mom's office. "I know the code," she said quietly. Of course she did. Quiet kids see everything. The drawer opened. What we found inside made my chest tighten. Forged papers, forms with my signature, almost right, but not quite. Statements showing slow withdrawals over months, small amounts, careful amounts. She wasn't impulsive. She was patient. There were also notes, pages and pages describing my mental instability. All lies. She was building a story where I looked crazy and she looked responsible. I didn't cry. I got angry. Calm anger. The dangerous kind. That night, the lab results came back. The tea contained strong sedatives and laxatives. Not deadly, just enough to put someone in the hospital for days. Exactly as Nola said. Brooke didn't want me dead. She wanted me out of the way. The next morning, I made the call. I let it ring once, twice, then voicemail. I left a message in the weakest voice I could manage. "I'm so sorry to ruin your trip." Then I hung up. My hands were steady. 2 hours later, she replied. Not a call, a text. "Oh no, feel better." Heart emoji. "Don't worry about Nola. Rest up." That's it. No hospital name, no panic, no asking to speak to her daughter. That told me everything. Over the next 2 days, I played the role of my life. "I'm still so sick. They're keeping me for observation. I feel awful for stressing you." Each message made her bolder. Meanwhile, everything else moved quietly. A lawyer friend, authorities, financial records flagged, and Nola gave her statement properly, safely, with professionals. She spoke slowly, carefully, but she didn't stop. When she finished, she looked at me and said, "My voice feels tired, but good." That nearly broke me. Day 4. The day Brooke thought she'd win. She and her husband walked into a law office in another city, carrying forged documents and confidence. They expected signatures, transfers, victory. What they didn't expect was a room waiting for them. Detectives, documents, proof. And finally, a recording. Nola's voice. Clear, calm, honest. Silence filled that room, and for the first time in her life, Brooke couldn't talk her way out. I watched it all from a screen. When the cuffs clicked shut, I didn't smile. I just felt empty. Then Nola squeezed my hand. "Is it over?" she asked. "Yes," I said softly. "It is." But deep down, I knew this wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning of something else. 2 weeks later, we stood in a courtroom that smelled like old paper and quiet decisions. Nothing dramatic, no shouting, just truth, laid out slowly. Brooke wasn't there. Her lawyer was. The judge read through the file without emotion. Fraud, forgery, attempted poisoning, and 5 years of psychological abuse. 5 years. That number kept echoing in my head. Nola sat beside me, feet not touching the floor, hands folded tight in her lap. She wore a purple dress. She picked herself. Her choice. That mattered. The judge finally looked up. Then he looked directly at Nola. "You've been very brave," he said gently. "I have just one question for you." The room went silent. "Where do you want to live?" Nola didn't answer right away. She looked at me. Then she stood up. Her voice didn't shake. "I want to live with my aunt. She listened to me, even when I couldn't talk." That was it. The gavel came down. Custody granted. Just like that. Outside the courthouse, sunlight felt different, lighter. Nola talked the entire drive home about the judge, about birds on the windowsill, about what she wanted her room to look like. 5 years of silence, trying to escape all at once, and I listened, really listened. Brooke took a plea deal. Too much evidence, too many records. The money was traced, most of it recovered. The trust was secured, but none of that mattered as much as what happened next. That night, sitting at my small kitchen table, Nola looked at me and asked, "Auntie, can I talk as much as I want now?" I smiled. "Yes," I said, "always." She nodded seriously, then launched into a 20-minute explanation about dinosaurs, which ones were overrated, which ones would win fights, why movies got it all wrong. I didn't interrupt. I never would again. Therapy came next. Some days were hard. Some days she went quiet again. But this time, it was her choice. Not fear, not control. Choice. One morning, weeks later, we sat on the balcony eating pancakes. Sunlight, normal life. Nola looked up at me suddenly. "Thank you for listening, for real listening." I swallowed. "Always," I told her, and I meant it. Some people think the loudest voices are the strongest. They're wrong. Sometimes the quietest people are just waiting for someone safe enough to finally speak.